Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be briefly stepping away from my Doctor Who content and I'll be presenting you my personal ranking of all the 24 James Bond films from worst to best, according to my own personal tastes and preferences, that is, which can be rather controversial at times. Actually, it's always controversial, so I've recently rewatched all 24 films and I'm here today to show you how I would rank them. Enjoyment is a large factor of this ranking, which I'm sure you'll work out, and just a reminder that this is my opinion, and when you disagree, which I'm 99.9% certain that you will at some point, as this list is very controversial, please be nice about it, because everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Anyway, let's begin. So, in number 24, so my least favourite Bond film, we have The Living Daylights. In my opinion, this film is dull, and it drags significantly. There are good things that I love in every Bond film, and there are elements of this film that I do enjoy, such as the pre-title sequence, which is genuinely one of my favourites. Dalton is okay, Cara Mallovi as a Bond girl though is poor, and as for the villains, they're easily the most forgettable in the franchise, and I definitely won't be in a hurry to go back to this film anytime soon. In at 23 we have Octopussy, which I actually enjoy. I can find enjoyment out of every film, maybe aside from The Living Daylights, and I do believe that putting this film so low is kind of wrong of me, because I do love the location work in India, and this film has some amazing moments, such as the fight on top of the train, and I even like the escape through the Indian jungle where Bond goes a bit Tarzan. I do think this film is lacking in Bond girls, which is the quality that I do look for, and I'm not a big fan of Octopussy herself, and this film can drag a little towards the end. But saying that, I do love Govinda as a henchman. I think he's very cool. Taking 22nd spot on this list, we have Quantum of Solace. This film is just sort of there for me. It is quite forgettable, so I don't have a lot to say, but I think it has good moments. But the editing is very odd. And as a direct sequel to Casino Royale, it doesn't do its job all too well, but hey, it's enjoyable enough, I suppose. In 21st spot we have Dr. No, the original Bond film. The only word I can really use to describe this movie is vanilla. It is amazing for 1962 and it establishes some key Bondisms for the following films, so I have to give credit where credit is due. However, it can get a little slow at times, but I do adore Honey Rider and Sylvia Trench, and Connery is fabulous in this as per usual. Now we get controversial. In at 20 we do have GoldenEye. This is genuinely regarded as a fan favourite, but I don't think it is that good. This film definitely ticks the box in terms of villains, I can say that for sure. Natalia is a decent Bond girl, but far from my favourite. It drags in places and I just didn't enjoy it as much as the other films. Xena is an odd character, to say the least, too. On the other hand, it does have decent moments, and it certainly doesn't lack in action. Sitting at 19 is A View to a Kill. Roger Moore has certainly gone past his expiry date in this one, but it still makes for a semi-enjoyable romp. The dynamic between Mayday and Zorin is great, and they make for a great team. Tanya Roberts is pretty good as Stacy, and this movie has good moments, such as the elevator escape and the mine flooding, but genuinely, for me, it's a fine movie, and one that I'd happily revisit, but personally I prefer 18 other films. Talking of 18th, in 18th spot we have Die Another Day. This movie definitely ticks the box when it comes to an enjoyable Bond film. I think this movie is paced brilliantly, and it's certainly a movie that I can pop on whenever I feel like it. The sword fights are great. Miranda Frost is my favourite character in the film, but of course it does have its downfalls. It's incredibly ambitious and far-fetched. The CGI and the editing are abysmal, and Jinx isn't a great Bond girl either. The performances are rather hammy in this. The theme song is awful, and the plot is just stupid, but despite all of that, it makes for a good Bond romp. In at 17 is Spectre, the most recent Bond film. This one is quite long, and it certainly has moments when I just want to check my phone to see how long is left. But despite all of that, it has brilliant action sequences, such as the car chase with the henchman, which is one of my favourites. The henchman himself is brilliant, and I wish we saw more of him. The whole Blofeld brother idea is plainly odd, and I don't understand Bond's connection with Madeline Swan. But it does look great, and I enjoyed it, but you have to be in a certain mood to watch this movie, I think. In 16th spot we have The Man with the Golden Gun. This film is absolutely bonkers, but a lot of fun. Christopher Lee is amazing in this, and he certainly is one of the best villains in the franchise. Good Night is the pretty poor Bond girl, but you can't help but laugh at how silly she is. It's genuinely a fun romp, but far from anything amazing. Sheriff J.W. Pepper is one of the best side characters in any movie, and I prefer him here compared to the previous film that he was in, Live and Let Die. In 15th position I have License to Kill. This movie is down to earth, gritty, and very dark for a Bond film, and it doesn't really suit the other tone that the other ones have. But I did enjoy this quite a bit, and I think it has brilliant moments. The pre-title sequence is one of my favourites in any Bond movie, and Dalton is much better here than he was in The Living Daylights. I liked Pam as a Bond girl, but I found myself liking Loopy Lamora more, oddly. The villain and henchmen of the film are great, and I liked how Felix Leiter was the main focus of this piece too. It did get a little slow and dragged nearer the ending, but it is a movie that I wouldn't mind going back to in the future. Yeah, at 14th we have Thunderball. This is a lovely film, and one I enjoyed to a high extent. This movie is rich with Bond girls, which I love, and Connery is still excellent here. The underwater scenes can go on for a bit too long, and I would have liked to see this film go somewhere else, as it is predominantly set in Nassau. Saying that, it is a solid, middle-of-the-road Bond film, but one I have to be in the right mood for. Taking 13th spot, I've put Goldfinger. I do think this film is a teeny bit overrated, but I found myself enjoying it a lot. Goldfinger as a villain is brilliant, and Oddjob is one of my favourite henchmen in the franchise. Tilly Masterton gets the award for the most underrated Bond girl as well. Connery is at his best here, and this is a very easy to watch Sunday afternoon film. I prefer the first half to the second half, but I still think this is a very decent romp, and a must watch for any Bond fan. In 12th spot we have From Russia with Love. This film does a great job at setting up some of the classic Bondisms that we know and love, such as Q and the Henchman. It is a little slow-paced and quite simple compared to the rest, but it is so enjoyable, and it's a very easy watch. The scenes on the train I can't even speak today. They're definitely my favourite, the scenes on the train, and the cast are great as well, and Connery is on top form. So I don't really understand what isn't to like about this film. It's a very simple film, but an effective film, and one that I can always appreciate. Just missing out on the top 10, I've put The World Is Not Enough. This is a brilliant film, and quite underrated if I may say so myself. The pre-title sequence again is one of my favourites of all time, and the Bond girls are great. The action is great, Brosnan does a brilliant job here, and it makes for a very entertaining movie. I do love the character of Electra King, and although Christmas Jones is miscast, she is nice to look at. Kicking off the top 10 we have Diamonds Are Forever. This is the campiest Bond film there is, and it is one that I've always loved. Before rewatching the films, this was top 5 material. I did regard this very, very highly. But I have to admit that on second viewing I didn't enjoy it as much, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. It's very entertaining. The scenes in Las Vegas are my favourite, and Tiffany Case is a hopeless Bond girl, but it works. I'm also a big fan of Plenty O'Toole, and the casting of Blofeld as Charles Grey is great. One of my favourite Blofelds. In 9th spot I've put Casino Royale. I know this may seem a bit low down for the majority of you, but I truly do love this film. It's the well-needed reboot that the franchise needed after Die Another Day, and we see a much darker, grittier movie, which is arguably the most standout of the films. Vesper is a great character, and Daniel Craig is brilliant here. The action scenes are some of the best, and although it isn't the easiest film to watch, i.e. it's not something you'd put on a lazy Sunday afternoon, it does make for a brilliant couple of hours, and it is certainly one of the best films in this series. Coming in at number 8 we have For Your Eyes Only. I'd argue this is the most underrated film in the franchise. It was also the last one that I rewatched in my sort of marathon, so it's the freshest in my mind. After Moonraker, we see a darker, more down-to-earth film where there are no golden guns, no space stations. I do adore this movie because it's Roger Moore at his best. He is quite dark here, and it doesn't match the light-hearted tone that the other films do. Therefore, it stands out and it is one of my favourites. It's a delight to watch and one that I can always stick on no matter how I'm feeling. In 7th position I have The Spy Who Loved Me. This is an example of a very, very strong Bond film, and it is one of Moore's best. It has a pretty simple plot, but I love the locations, the quips from Moore, and the overall feel of this film. I can always watch this one, and some of my favourite characters are Jaws, who might be my favourite henchman, as well as Major Anya Amasova, who is an awesome Bond girl. The pre-title sequence is also very good, and rather iconic as well. In 6th spot, just missing out on my top 5, I've put On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This movie is brilliant, and although it's one of the longer Bond films in the franchise, it rarely gets dull, and although we have an ex-model playing Bond, I don't think he does that bad of a job. The blossoming chemistry between Bond and Tracy is a treat to watch, and ultimately Tracy's untimely fate is very tragic. I love Telly Savalas as Blofeld, and once again this is a film that I can always put on and thoroughly enjoy. I must add that this film would be higher up on the list if Lazenby's voice wasn't dubbed for half the film, as that does take away from the enjoyment slightly. Kicking off my top 5, I've put Live and Let Die, which proves that the franchise can survive without Sean Connery. Roger Moore is pretty strong here for his first film, and although the movie hasn't aged too well, I love every moment in it. Solitaire is a contender for my all-time favourite Bond girl, and the villains are very good too. My favourite sequence is probably the bus chase, which I think is hilarious, but overall a joy to watch. Sheriff J.W. Pepper is once again a delight to watch, and overall this film is essential for any Bond fan, and it remains one of my favourites of all time. In 4th place I have Skyfall. This is by far my favourite film of the Craig era, and it has everything that a Bond film needs, but it does lack one quite crucial Bondism, which is the main Bond girl. But to celebrate 50 years of Bonds doesn't do a bad job at all. It's a delight to watch from the moment it starts to the second it ends, and we finally get an exploration into the character of M, which is lovely. There isn't a dull moment in Skyfall, but there are 3 more films which I personally enjoy to a greater extent. In 3rd place I've put You Only Live Twice. Although Sean Connery isn't at his best here, there is something so magical about this movie. The charm, the vibe, the locations, it's great and highly entertaining. This ticks all the boxes for a good Bond film, and it gets top spot for the best set inside the volcano, which is really incredible for 1967. The scenes with Little Nelly are hilarious, and I enjoy the Bond girls too, Aki and Kissy. Blofeld once again is excellent, and this film is so charming and excellently made. In general, this is definitely my favourite Sean Connery film, and it's just a lovely watch. Just missing out on top spot, and in 2nd place I've put Tomorrow Never Dies. No matter how I feel, I can always put this movie on. From the outside it's a very run-of-the-mill Bond film, but I think it's excellent, with a simple yet engaging plot. Jonathan Pryce is an outstanding villain in my eyes, and for any Doctor Who fans out there, I believe he would make an awesome master. I love Wei Lin as a Bond girl, but my only complaint is that I'd rather they didn't go down the romantic route between her and Bond. But overall, in my opinion, it's a top tier Bond movie, and I can hardly fault it. I do prefer one film to it though, and you might have worked out by now, my all-time favourite Bond movie is Moonraker. Where do I start? This outing is exceptional. Roger Moore is halfway through his tenure, and he is delivering a stellar performance. The Bond girls are excellent. Holly, Corinne, Manuela. Jules is brilliant, and I don't mind his character going down that softer route. Hugo Drax is a wonderful villain, and although this film is genuinely quite camp, it does have scenes which are incredibly dark, such as Corinne's death sequence, which is very chilling. Most people know this as the Bond in space movie, but in my eyes it is way more than that. The locations are fabulous in Venice and Brazil, and overall this has everything it needs to be a fabulous Bond film, and therefore it is my favourite. So there you go, there is my ranking of all the 24 James Bond films. I know this is a controversial list, but it is only my opinion, and I would love to hear some of your favourite Bond films down in the comments below. I won't make this video any longer than it already is, so I just want to thank everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to, and do let me know if you'd like to see more James Bond content on the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video whenever that may be. Bye.